Welcome to Airshow 100. Today, we're at one of the world's largest aviation events, the Paris Airshow. The show here at Le Bourget offers a fantastic flying display and an international trade fair that will see billions of dollars of aircraft sales. But it's also a place where the future's on show, with aircraft and technology that will affect aviation and, most importantly, us as its users for a generation to come. The world of commercial aviation was transformed by the tragic events of September 2001, with the SARS epidemic further delaying any market recovery. The 50th Paris Airshow takes place in this difficult environment, where political tensions between France and the United States have limited both the attendance and the actual flight programme. Not surprisingly then, the organisers were keen to provide some escape and remind everyone that there is still a thrill and a majesty to flying that's truly unique. So, they opened each day's flying programme with a stunning display by former world aerobatic champion Xavier de Lapeyron in his Su-26. Since its launch in 2000, the Airbus A380 has been the talk of the airline world. This vast 550-seat aircraft will revolutionise air travel when it comes into service. And final assembly for the giant is at the Airbus plant in Toulouse.
The program was launched in December 2000 and the first flight is early 2005. So we are more than halfway through the process in order to get the aircraft flying. There was a big debate before the launch of the program of where would you put the assembly line, because some were thinking that it would be better closer to the harbour and other ones closer to the centres of competence. And what it boils down to after is that we went to go to I would say the centres of competence of Airbus. So establishing the assembly of the aircraft and flying the aircraft and all the flight tests in Toulouse, and all of the commercial furnishing is in Hamburg. So obviously to do that you need to bring everything to Toulouse to assemble the aircraft. And then we had another choice. Either we put all the bits and pieces in trucks and we assembled everything in Toulouse, or we kept the current philosophy to have equipped sections that you carry over across the various factories in order to bring them to the assembly line. Well, obviously you need to transport them, and then you got the size, and then what do you do? So we found out very quickly that the Beluga, our aircraft, was too small to carry the parts, so we had to go to surface transport. And surface transport is basically talking about a ship. We also have been working with the airport since 1996, and for instance it's the first time that the dimension of the aircraft is constrained in fact by airport compatibility. After many discussions with the various airports and the airline, we decided to fit the aircraft in an 80 meter per 80 meter box, because this is what made sense in terms of being able to taxi around and go to the terminal. The takeoff weight is 560 tons for the basic version, and the freighter will go above 600 tons. So we are basically talking in a 550 to 600 plus tons. But in fact, it's a bit like a truck, you know. It's not just the weight, it's also the number of wheels. So we designed the landing gear of the aircraft. We made lots of tests, and we built a special runway, actually, in order to make statistics, to reproduce existing aircraft configuration, and to define a configuration of the landing gear which allowed to have a pressure which is no greater than the pressure actually placed on the runways by existing certified aircraft, as an example. So that's for the runway, length, width, and I would say the weight of the aircraft. All this is within the envelope of existing aircraft. Taxiways, some adaptation in certain areas, some bridges to be reinforced in some airports. From an aircraft point of view, we are giving more space, 30% more space per passenger on average than for instance, the competition aircraft and existing jumbo aircraft. So more room, of course, much more modern interior, working a lot on the noise to minimize the noise in the cabin, and also offer potentially a lot of facilities inside the aircraft. But for the facilities, then it goes down to the airline. What type of facility do they want to offer? So it can come to, let's say, super premium, where you can have beds, for instance, privacy rooms. Why not showers? It comes also down to business or economy, where the focus is also about social areas. You've got long flights. We've got those debates about DVT, thrombosis. What type of activity do you want to propose to yourself, myself as a passenger, in order to make the best use of the time? So there's a lot of creativity ongoing, and then afterwards, I would say each airline wants to have its secret weapon. So they're working with their own design studios to really make it, I would say, something exceptional. At the end of the day, it's more a question of what is the level of size of an aircraft which could be acceptable to the overall community in terms of environment, in terms of noise. Because although we've been working a lot of noise, and the 380 will be much quieter, for instance, than the existing 747s, the bigger the aircraft, the more noise it makes. So there is a limit to that also. So it's difficult to give a limit in terms of number of tons or number of passengers. But we think that the 380 and the developments of the 380 represent really the end of the story for that type of configuration of aircraft.
It will be some time before the A380 displays at Paris, but new in the sky this year is the latest addition to the successful A320 family, the new baby of the fleet, the A318. This is a shorter version of the 320 by some 3 metres, and it's designed to accommodate customer requests for an aircraft to fill the perceived void in the 100-seat range. The 318 has been described as the entry-level Airbus, offering a 107-seat state-of-the-art airliner for a mere $45 million. Though that's still more expensive than the offerings from competitors Boeing and Embraer. The Airbus display has become a feature of the Paris Airshow, and there's something rather serene about large passenger airliners slowly wheeling through the skies. And as you can obviously tell from the helpful graphics, this is the current big daddy of the Airbus family, the A340-600, that seats 380 passengers with a range of 7,500 nautical miles. Airbus received a major boost at the show as Emirates Airlines bucked the economic trends and announced the largest order in civil aviation history, an order for 67 airliners worth $19 billion. Airbus will be supplying 41 aircraft, and the remaining 26 are to be Boeing 777s. Boeing may have been outproduced for the first time by Airbus in the first half of 2003, but they continue to be aggressive competitors. And after the break, we'll hear how they're responding to the competition from Airbus. Flying aircraft is one of the most demanding jobs in aviation, whether it's passenger aircraft or military jets. One aircraft currently being test flown is on display here at Paris. It's the Boeing long-range 777, and the man putting it through its paces is Frank Santoni.
We basically start with initial airworthiness. We have to show that the airplane is airworthy. We can actually fly the airplane. We can put our test people on the airplane. So we do a lot of initial testing for basic airplane handling characteristics, stall testing, and engine performance. And we do a lot of exciting testing too. People sometimes consider this dangerous testing. We consider challenging testing, where we put the airplane through its paces. We go out and look at the envelope on the corners, whereas the normal airline pilot would look at it kind of in the center. We'll do things like takeoff performance testing, where we actually abuse takeoffs to show that the airplane performs very well. Or we'll do max energy refuse takeoffs, where we'll load the airplane up as heavy as we can get it, take it up to as high a speed as we can do with that weight, and then hit the brakes as hard as we can hit them. And that checks the brakes that they will work when the pilot really needs them. So that's some of the more exciting testing we're doing. But 90% of it is very run-of-the-mill gathering data for simulators, for autopilots, for flight manuals. We test this from its empty weight all the way to its full max takeoff weight, which is around 760,000 pounds. So how do we get the weight on? Well, we have water we carry in the airplane, which is not much weight. If you look on a test airplane, we have water barrels, we call them. They're big, huge vats of water that we can pump from the forward end of the airplane to the back end of the airplane, or vice versa, to control the center of gravity. The actual weight is controlled by very heavy blocks we'll put in the cargo bay, and by the fuel we put on the airplane. The airplane carries lots of fuel. We carry, in pounds, 330,000 pounds of fuel. So we can load up the fuel, load it up with what we call Kurtzeit, which are these blocks of weight, and that's how we do the weight. This airplane will fly the same legs as for example, a 747-400. The next version, the 200LR, will be pushing out there to ranges around 9,000 nautical miles, or if you think about it, 18 hours in flights.
The 200LR is the next member of the 777 family, and whereas the 300ER will carry some 365 passengers and travel 7,400 nautical miles, the 200LR will carry 300 passengers and travel some 9,200 nautical miles. So it will be the longest range commercial airplane, and it will fly it will allow non-stop travel then between cities like Singapore to LA, Kuala Lumpur to New York, those types of missions that today no airplane serves, but yet the traveling public certainly flies a lot between those types of city pairs.
For Boeing, any issues over 4 engines versus 2 for long-haul flight are addressed by increased engine reliability.
We think that the reliability of the engines has improved dramatically over the last 35, 40 years. And in fact, the reliability of the engines on the 777 are twice as good as the regulatory requirements dictate. So it's not only good for the passenger, it's good for the airline in terms of the operating economics of the airplane and the dispatch and continued flight reliability that the airplane offers.
The regional market has not been buffeted quite to the same extent as long-haul, and Brazilian success story Embraer has continued to thrive. Major carriers are flying smaller aircraft on routes where demand has fallen, and are also shifting capacity to their regional partners. This is good news for the likes of Embraer, who have seen an opportunity in the 70 to 90 seat range by developing an all-new aircraft. The 170 is demonstrated at Paris and looks like a cross between an Airbus A320 and a Boeing 737, though slightly smaller. The cost is also smaller when compared to the competition from the big-name manufacturers. And as long as the reported teething problems with the complex avionics are sorted, the future looks like it will continue to be bright for Embraer. As the range of aircraft and numbers being ordered continues to decrease, particularly in the military sector, consolidation is key to enable companies to survive and also to afford the huge development costs of remaining projects. The rewards to the lucky few, however, are on a truly massive scale. In 10 years' time, the Royal Air Force and the Royal Navy will have a new frontline combat aircraft. The Lockheed F-35 will offer stealth technology and a VTOL capability, and it's been developed in partnership with BAE Systems in the UK.
We've got 3 different variants in this family of aircraft. The first one is referred to as the conventional takeoff and landing variant, sometimes referred to as the Air Force airplane. The second one is the short takeoff vertical landing, sometimes referred to as a Marine Corps or Royal Air Force Royal Navy airplane. And the third is the carrier variant, which is designed to fly off of traditional catapult and arresting gear equipped aircraft carriers. The F-35 is designed to be a coalition airplane that provides all of the new dimensions of integrated avionics, lethality, stealth, but also provides the interoperability that's missing today in coalition operations. When the U.S. and its allies can operate the same aircraft in the same conflict, it takes away a lot of the interoperability issues that are there today. Today, the estimates for the U.S. and the U.K. number just about 2,600 airplanes. Our partners, when you add them all together, is another 600 to 800, and then we expect to have additional foreign sales beyond that. So we're looking at somewhere between 3,500 and 5,000 airplanes. This aircraft has the potential to replace any airplane that does multi-role combat aviation. F-16, F-18, A-10, Tornado. JSF F-35 is designed to fit into the basic aerodynamic envelope of today's aircraft, but bring in the added dimensions of integrated avionics, stealth, and interoperability. The Joint Strike Fighter is the largest single project in the Department of Defense, and it's certainly one of the largest projects that Lockheed Martin has worked on. The current contract that we have for the SDD phase only is worth about $19 billion. If the production goes to the full extent that's anticipated, it could be worth up to $300 billion.
Eurofighter has been in development for nearly 20 years, and it's a stalwart of the Paris Airshow. Even though it's yet to enter operational service, the consortium partners have still shouldered huge costs to get it to this stage. Eurofighter alone accounts for 20% of the UK's defence equipment budget, so it's vital that the aircraft is equipped for the demands of today. The aircraft was conceived primarily as an air superiority fighter, but significant changes in the threat and the realities of modern combat have forced major adjustments to increase air-to-ground capability. The problem is that while some partners want to make sure the aircraft is up to the job, others are looking for price cuts in the cash-consuming project. However, deliveries are now taking place to the German, Italian, Spanish and UK air forces, with 28 aircraft scheduled for this year and some 100 aircraft for 2004. Nonetheless, you might be looking at the product of Europe's last manned fighter programme. Maybe they could see the consortium disagreements looming, or simply wanted to exercise their independent spirit. But France withdrew from the Eurofighter consortium in the early development phase. The French decided to build their own multi-role combat aircraft, secure in the knowledge that they had a protected military market with a substantial need. The result is Rafale, a multi-role aircraft capable of carrying out a wide range of missions and available in 3 variants for the French Air Force and the French Navy. French military expectations are for 294 aircraft in total, 60 for the Navy and 95 single-seaters and 139 two-seater aircraft for the Air Force, with the last of these being delivered in 2019. Now that's a handsome order book from your home market. Without the same huge domestic order book enjoyed by Rafale, it's important that the Saab Gripen make inroads in the export market. We joined Chief Saab test pilot Frederick Muschler as he prepared for his display by walking through the routine on the tarmac. This visualization process is something familiar to all display pilots, and it's even more critical when export orders could be influenced by the quality of your display. We asked Frederick Muschler to tell us more about the issues to be considered by a display pilot at the Paris Airshow.
Here at Paris there is a box, same as everywhere else, where you're allowed to fly within that box. One edge of the box is quite narrow. The minimum altitude is quite high, it's 300 meters. And also they have added some maximum altitudes due to the surroundings. The aircraft is very high performance aircraft with high agility, and since the aircraft is unstable in pitch, you can turn and turn and turn a lot without losing energy, and that's what I'm trying to show. You have to plan this show as all other shows, that you have to take in account with the wind, the weather and things like that, and that differs from day to day, so not one day is like the other one. To think about where am I in the display, where are the crowd line, from what direction is the wind right now, and so the continuous work going on in the brain, thinking about where you are in the sequence. 26 is maximum angular attack. The speed is down to 180 kilometers per hour. The most important thing with an airshow is to fly safe, is to stick to what you train to, and it's the same that you validate one program and then you have to stick to that program. So it is the same program during the public days. I really like flying, and it's flying in the display that's good fun. Here I'm flying for 9 days in a row, and it's nice flying the Gripen, that's for sure.
Paul, you've got an amazing display of weapons around the Gripen here. Are they all cleared for operations?
No, the weapons we are displaying are weapons that are in various phases of the clearance progress. The new generation technology allows innovative weapons clearance techniques, which means that it's simple to integrate weapons onto the Gripen. What we're trying to demonstrate here is the flexibility of choice of the Gripen, with weapons that are from both the USA NATO weapons, new European NATO weapons, and weapons from the rest of the world, such as South Africa and Israel. This gives complete flexibility of choice. We have weapons for every role, for every different mission, to match the capabilities of the Gripen as a multi-role fighter, swing role fighter. Gripen, for example, will be the first aeroplane to fly and fire the Meteor, the new European AMRAAM replacement program.
The Meteor will be replacing the Advanced Medium Range Air-to-Air Missile, or the AMRAAM, in 2008. One aircraft that symbolises the future of air power is the Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor. Now, some people are saying that this aircraft could represent the last generation of manned fighter aircraft. Whatever happens, it's going to be a formidable fighting machine. Matt, last time I was at Paris, we were talking about the Raptor still being test flown. Where is it at the moment?
The Raptor still is being test flown. We've actually delivered 14 airplanes to the United States Air Force.
What will the F-22 give to the Air Force that it doesn't already have with its F-15s and F-16s?
3 fundamental differences between the F-22 and the F-15. First of all is pure performance. This airplane will do what we call super cruise, meaning that it will be able to fly faster than the speed of sound. In fact, it'll fly plus 1.5 Mach number without using afterburners, which is a big deal because you don't have near as much heat radiating out of the aircraft itself, which gives it better performance against heat-seeking missiles. And the second thing is, of course, just pure gas. It enables the airplane to go fly longer. Now, the second real thing that the F-22 does is it has its missiles and its weapons for air-to-ground. They're all tucked inside so they can keep the airplane completely stealthy even when it's in an attack mode. And the third item is complete integration of a lot of different sensors and the ability to communicate that information to and from the airplane. The reason that it looks the way it does is so it is a radar evading type of shape. It will go in very, very dangerous parts of territories, be able to take out those dangerous assets that the enemy has and prepare the battlefield for other assets to come in later. The airplane will actually enter into initial operational capability with the United States Air Force in late 2004. It'll be stationed at Langley Air Force Base where they are stationing F-15s now.
We've seen conflict recently in Afghanistan and in Iraq. What is the Raptor going to give to the Air Force to help it in future combat?
What the Raptor will give is the capability to, in the most hostile kinds of environments, do the same kinds of missions that we were able to accomplish with other aircraft in Iraq, which proved so devastatingly effective, and that is pure air dominance. It will keep that air dominance into the future against much more concentrated enemies than what we saw in Iraq.
After the break, the next generation of aircraft without pilots. One of the hottest debates in military aviation currently surrounds UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles. These remotely controlled aircraft can fly for long periods, lingering almost undetected over the battlefield area, collecting information for combat commanders. And they don't need a pilot, a radical development in air power, which the world's air forces are very keen to explore. We spoke to Carl Johnson about the capabilities of the Northrop Grumman Global Hawk. And what's the length of the operation, the typical operation you might fly?
We've demonstrated 31 and a half hours so far in its flight. The system is designed for 36-hour endurance right now. This is the RQ-4A. We're still in the flight test phase of it, so 31 hours is what we've demonstrated. It is a surveillance platform. It operates at 60,000 feet, which is significantly above other airspace. Its intent is to provide information and situational awareness and let others make the decision and let other strike assets take care of whatever might come of the information.
Will the military increasingly rely on unmanned aerial vehicles like this?
This is a prototype system still. It has yet to be delivered to the Air Force. So these are early deployments that allow the military to understand what its capability is and adjust concept of operations and make improvements to it before the final products are delivered.
And what's the reaction from the military?
It's been very positive, including the pilots.
While there are no plans to arm the Global Hawk, other UAVs are armed and combat ready. And of course you've got the Fire Scout as well, the Navy program.
It's just starting up. It's an ACTD, going to generate some demonstrators, advanced concept technology demonstrators. It will show the capability of an unmanned UAV in a strike role. It will be weapons delivery, bombs, that sort of thing. The advantage of having an unmanned vehicle is that where there's a high threat situation, you don't need to put a pilot or crew or large crew into harm's way. It's also good for the really boring work of surveillance, number of assets, P3s, that sort of asset. It takes a long time. There are long missions that are dull, and just the boredom of it puts the crew at risk. So there's certainly a role for UAVs.
Do you think we'll ever see UAVs completely replacing manned aircraft?
It's a big debate. I would say the answer is no. Certainly we're operating now in a role that's complementary to manned aircraft. I think though that for extremely hazardous situations, the military will rely more and more on UAVs. The concept of sending people into harm's way is not pleasant. It's not taken lightly. And so if you have an alternative, I think it'll be used.
UAVs come in many shapes and sizes. And though there's little doubt that military applications are driving UAV development, some operators have more civilian applications in mind.
We used to say it's a dull, dirty and dangerous missions to be able to use these assets without risking human lives in terms of pilots, and also in dangerous areas like in a situation like Chernobyl, where we have some dangerous things in the air. We think that for the future we need to also consider support to civil society, and we must do missions for Coast Guard, for fire department use and so on.
There's little doubt that recent armed conflicts have been responsible for bolstering the military marketplace in turbulent economic times. Franco-German Combine Eurocopter has benefited too, as they are predicting a 40% increase in military sales over the next 3 years, and they've dominated the helicopter display at Le Bourget. France and Germany have predictably placed large orders for the Tiger attack helicopter, with Spain expected to follow suit. Eurocopter described the NH-90 as an ideal replacement for the Chinook, and have in excess of 300 orders so far, and plan for more than 500. The company are not so bullish about civil sales, however, and see little growth in their already healthy penetration of the police and rescue market in Europe and the United States. The EC-145 medium twin is being pitched at emergency rescue missions, and 32 have been ordered by the French Sécurité Civile, while the Austrian Automobile Association remain the biggest customer to date. Emergency services in Switzerland and Germany have also placed orders. And with a respectful nod to the past, the helicopter display at Le Bourget finishes with the classic Sud Aviation Alouette, one of the early turbine helicopters and still in service today. Europe's air forces are edging tentatively closer towards greater collaboration, a process which started with my first aircraft, the Tornado GR1. But now, a new aircraft launched here in Paris will eventually equip 7 European air arms, the Airbus Military 400M. Many feared that the A400M would take as long as the Eurofighter to develop. But now the main partners are agreed and a launch order for 180 aircraft has been signed. Participating countries may guarantee purchases, but the US stranglehold on heavy military transport will be difficult to break. And then the heavens opened above Le Bourget, and it certainly would have been nice to head for sunnier climes. Maybe our very own private jet was just what we needed. I'd arranged an interview with the president of Dassault Falcon to find out more about the exclusive world of business jets and what was involved in actually getting hold of one. Why are business jets like this so important?
I think, it's not uncommon for a lot of executives to fly, 30-40% of their time. This kind of plane can, I would say, double your productivity during all these trips, and that's why they are more and more accepted by people are truly a tool for their business.
If I came to you as a businessman with a checkbook, how much would it cost me to buy an aircraft like this?
Now, this airplane, well equipped, is worth approximately $35 million.
$35 million?
Yeah, absolutely.
That sounds like a phenomenal expense. How many aircraft are you selling a year? How many Falcons are there out there in the business world?
No, since we started this business, in fact, we just celebrated the 40 years anniversary of the Falcon family. We have delivered 1,600 airplanes throughout the world, and now typically we produce about 60 or 70 airplanes per year.
And is it just business that is buying this, or does it have other users as well?
About 80% of our customers are coming from the corporate world, We have some governments. We also have here on the static display a Navy airplane, which is used for search and rescue.
So it's got all sorts of different applications?
Absolutely. Mostly corporate aviation, but also government and special missions.
Are you developing? What does the business world need more of?
Yeah, I've been thinking for the very long term of potentially a supersonic business jet, but for the time being, we are focusing on these airplanes from 3,000 to 5,000 nautical miles. That's really where Dassault has enjoyed a great success and very good market share.
Do you think that in years to come we'll see a supersonic business aircraft?
I think it will probably come, let's say, in about 10 years.
Really?
Yes.
If a single business couldn't afford, let's say, the $35 million, do they share them? Can you lease them?
Well, there is a very successful program for the last few years. It has really been a booming business, and we are partnering with NetJets, and they sell airplane up to 1/16. So it has given access to a lot of people, and it's a very good partnership for us. We're very close and very pleased to work with our friends from NetJets.
So I could buy a 16th of something like this?
Absolutely.
How much is that going to set me back?
If my computation is right, a little over 2 million.
Still too much. BizJets, as they are known, are not only about comfort. They also embody cutting-edge technology, and Chief Pilot Philippe Delume talked me through the Falcon's new intuitive flight deck layout. What's so special about the design of this cockpit?
What's unique with this type of cockpit is a brand new development of a flight deck for a crew, in order to help him to use at 100% all the systems on board of the aircraft in any phase of flight and any situations.
It looks as though it's actually based on part of the military development, is that right?
All the concepts were derived mainly from all our experience about Falcons up to now, and also all we did with our fighter aircraft, the Mirage 2000 and the Rafale. Especially it means using large displays and having cursor all around, and with the possibility to do modification of the flight plan in the flight management system directly with soft keys in the displays. We have 4 displays. The 2 lateral displays are more for short-term information. It means having directly the possibility to fly the aircraft following a trajectory. The 2 central displays are made more for long-term information, navigation, and flight management system, and all the systems of the aircraft, the fuel system, hydraulic, and so on, to monitor the system itself. So the way to do it, in fact, for example, modification of flight plan, I can click directly on a point where I want to go to, and just by clicking on this point, I will open a menu with all the functions I can do on this point. So it's direct, it's in very good view for both pilots. It means that we can have one pilot operating the system, the other one, while flying the aircraft, having the possibility to monitor. So we have these cross-check possibilities, which will enhance a lot the safety of the aircraft.
It actually looks very much like the flat screen computer system that you have at home. It's almost the same as that, isn't it?
It's close.
Drop-down menus and everything.
It's close, yes. What we wanted to have in the cursor is something like our fingers, and we just have to point out where we want to go and click on it.
And why don't you use a touchscreen system that you would have in a military jet?
We thought about touchscreen because we have touchscreen in the fighter aircraft, but the problem in a civilian aircraft is that the size of the cockpit is not at all the same. And especially in turbulence, if you use your finger, you are not very precise in turbulence, so you will never hit correctly the right point. So you will make a lot of mistakes. And the goal of this cockpit was to decrease the mistake for the pilots. So using a cursor control device with a very stable hand in the center means that even when the aircraft is in turbulence condition, your hand is stable, and you just have to move slightly the fingers up to the point you want to go to. When you fly, you have a prepared flight plan, and during the flight, the air controller, due to the amount of traffic on board, may call you to change your routing or your altitude, but now you can do that directly just by clicking to the point. If I'm told to go directly to this point, I just go here and click on it and click to direct to, and that's it. The system will do the same.
And this will all be linked in with the autopilot?
Absolutely.
You can just...
Absolutely.
You don't need a pilot anymore, do you?
You still need a pilot, in fact, to manage a system.
Yes.
You need a manager. A pilot is more something like a manager than just somebody flying the stick. That's true.
Flying a combat aircraft can cost 10 times as much as an advanced trainer, a harsh economic reality air forces simply can't ignore. With many countries' trainer fleets approaching redundancy, it's estimated that 65% of the world fleet is more than 25 years old. There's clearly a strong market for suppliers to aim for. But the market is very demanding too, and brings together established and new entrants hunting for those lucrative contracts. Yet another European joint programme is underway to select a prime advanced jet trainer, and the BAE Systems Hawk should be considered a major contender. Dave Potter tells us more.
The aircraft you'll see is actually our development aircraft, but is basically a 127. And of course we're looking for further development, which we've already defined, which will take us further into programmes, training pilots such as for Eurofighter, JSF, Gripen and aircraft of that time. The aircraft is such a superb trainer because it's aerodynamically, it's representative of frontline aeroplanes, the cockpit and the displays and control mimic that of future frontline aeroplanes, and therefore the student gets that type of training early on in his training career, so when he moves to the frontline aeroplane, he's just got minimum conversion training to type. The pilots are more into system management these days. They get a range of information put forward to them, and they need the opportunity and the ability to disseminate that information and act on that. And that's what the pilots are being trained for in terms of a Hawk with its sophisticated avionics system. So the main thrust of our development now is to bring on embedded training onto the Hawk. This is bringing synthetic training onto the aeroplane so the pilot can train on doing radar training or electronic warfare training on this aeroplane as opposed to doing it on the frontline aeroplane.
Another favourite for major European contracts has yet to be rolled out. It's the Mako from Eads, a single-engined, high-energy, advanced trainer and light combat aircraft. However, it may be too late for some of the big customers' requirements. Another advanced trainer put on one of the best displays at the Paris Airshow and showed the crowds it's a real contender. Aero Vodachody of the Czech Republic have been building trainers for more than 40 years and supplied over 6,000 aircraft to Warsaw Pact countries. US giant Boeing seized the opportunity to buy into a rich seam of expertise in 1997 and now owns 35% of the company, with the result that the L159 meets the latest quality and NATO standards, features Western avionics, and can be armed with a wide range of European and American ordnance. If you add the Aeromachi M346 and the Kai Lockheed T50, then the competition for advanced jet trainers is very hot indeed. It's been some time coming, but the venerable Antonov 24 finally has a replacement after 40 years of operation. The new AN-140 is intended for passenger and mixed cargo passenger operations, and again reflects the new reality by being the result of a 5-country effort, including the venerable Ukrainian lead company. The AN-74 is intended for medium-haul transport with an eye on Coast Guard, maritime patrol and Arctic operations. Rough, unimproved airstrips present no problem for this rugged and manoeuvrable aircraft, which should live up to the Antonov corporate slogan. No other name carries more weight. It should be no surprise that the Italian Alenia C-27J resembles a small Hercules, as Lockheed Martin's involvement has ensured many similarities with the larger type. The C-27 Spartan incorporates the same propulsion system and advanced avionics as the Hercules. This rugged, medium-sized transport showed off its impressive handling here at Paris. One aircraft that flew into the 50th Paris Airshow, but that sadly won't be leaving, was the Air France Concorde 101. It's to become a museum exhibit at Le Bourget. The Concorde flew in on the first Sunday of the show to an emotional welcome. It's difficult to imagine an aircraft that could catch the public imagination in the same way and elicit such an emotional response from the public and former aircrew alike. Truly the end of an era. We've seen a glimpse of the future here in the present at Le Bourget. Whether that's a future of pilotless planes or aircraft that will carry thousands, only time will tell. Whatever happens, you can be sure of one thing. Aviation will continue to play a major role in all of our lives. From Paris, goodbye.